anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, let me, since I haven't spoken on this, get a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparationist Perspective, bringing you those Freedmen hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote, socializing our suffering. And today, family, I'm going to share with you about how now, since the Biden administration has earmarked $30 million to be funded to white and immigrant-run drug programs in the name of the crack addicted, all of a sudden, reports are coming out that we are now dying more disproportionately from overdoses than white folks. I find that mighty peculiar and mighty convenient. So let's get into it. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. If you feel so compelled to bless the broadcast, my Cash App and PayPal are scrolling on the bottom bar. Let me share my screen. Welcome, one and all. I don't see you. Facebook, welcome. I don't see you. Twitter, welcome. And of course, ScrewTube, I'm always happy to see you guys. If you want to be acknowledged or you want your comments read as a co-host of the broadcast, you must do so from ScrewTube. I can't see you otherwise. Thank you, one and all. So let's get into it. Let's stop sharing this and share this article. Yeah, all of a sudden, We are the ones dying disproportionately, not the white folks. It just is mighty, mighty peculiar to moi. More Black Americans. It's an NPR article that I'm reading from. Let me share it with you, and then I'll read it from another queue. Unbelievable. Just when I thought all of our crack addicted was in jail or in the ground, here we go. Just a second, family. So, let me make sure you can see. I'm not going to detain you guys too long. Okay. There you have it. Black Americans are now dying from drug overdoses at a higher rate than whites. Let's see here. Hold on, family. Okay, so I'm going to read and, of course, make my commentary as we go. Now, if you guys recall, in the beginning, when they rolled out this $30 million in the name of crack for what I believe to be to line the pockets of white and immigrant-run drug programs and to help the opioid addicted, which are predominantly white, that were dying from overdoses. I believe they did all of this in our names, in the name of the crack addicted, because that's what's associated with Black. And so remember in my prior broadcast when I shared with you that there were white dirty hands in the images, right? It's almost like they're listening to my broadcast and adjusting the narrative according to the things that I call out. The puckery I call out, I feel like they're watching what I'm doing over here because they had nothing but white images on these crack epidemic plans to get clean crack pipes and heroin needles and all this kind of stuff. They had nothing but white hands in the name of the crack addicted to give this $30 million funding to. Do you all recall that? How I was complaining that nothing but white hands are in this picture as you pretend to give a damn about the crack addicted whom you have jailed in the private prison industrial complex as the not so new slaves, and the other ones are in the ground, and the other children are now lost to the foster care system and the juvenile detention centers because they've got fatherless and motherless homes behind the war on drugs by the CIA that was waged on our communities. I was complaining that they were doing all of this with white hands in the images. Well, somebody must have heard me, because now looky look. Now looky look whose dirty hands are in the images. After I complained in one of my prior broadcasts that they're doing this in the name of the crack pandemic, okay, when it is an opioid pandemic and you got white hands all over the place, now they come with the black hands. Sometimes I feel like somebody's watching me. I don't know who's saying that off the top of my head, but here you go. So I'm going to leave that image right there. Let me come over here and blow it up for you. Ta-da! It's gone like magic from white hands to black. So there you have it. After I complained in my video. So I believe they absolutely are watching and taking cues from the new black media and adjusting the narrative to try to fit their puckery a little better. So now when you see a black hand in the picture, you'll believe that it's the crack epidemic, the crack pandemic, as they call it, and not, the opioid, akin to the white hands that were in my last feature on this issue, right? Ooh, child, the ghetto. So let's get into it. I just had to show you all that. When the first phase of the I'm going to read and make my comments in between. When the first phase of the opioid epidemic was cresting in 2010, driven largely by prescription pain medications, white Americans were dying of fatal drug overdoses at rates twice that of Black Americans. In the decade that followed, drug deaths surged again, but this time, Black communities faced the brunt of the carnage. Now, let me stop right there because I want to talk with you guys about that actor. I think it was 5 Hispanics on trial for I'm looking this article up for killing famous Black actor with fentanyl. Michael K. Williams died of a drug overdose, authorities says, and there were 4 charged in the death of the Wire actor Michael K. Williams. So I don't know if you guys have been following in the news, but there's been quite a few actors, Black actors in particular, who have been dying from these drug overdoses. Now, if it is true that there were 4 charged in the drug death of the Wire actor Michael K. Williams, could it also be true that they are intentionally coming into our communities, lacing the products, lacing the drugs that the Biden administration now wants? Oh, Lord have mercy. Hold on, guys. Hello?
I'm sorry, I got locked out.
All right. I'm going to put this on silent, y'all. My apologies. These kids need to get a key because I am sick of them bugging my phone. Anywho, if it is true, back to my thought, that 4 have been charged in the drug death of the Wire actor Michael K. Williams because they've been lacing the drugs. Could it be true that they're coming through the community and killing Black people and it's going unnoticed until maybe 20 years from now when they'll be willing to admit the truth that these people are coming into the community purposely lacing the drugs and murdering us? It's just a question that comes to mind. Police in New York and Puerto Rico have arrested 4 men who allegedly sold the drugs that actor Michael K. Williams took before his overdose death. Now, he's a famous actor. If our numbers are on the rise, did anybody investigate those to trace them back to nefarious actions by the immigrants and the white folks who may have laced these drugs? I doubt it. Because Black life truly doesn't matter in this godforsaken country. But let me continue. Williams, most famous for his role as Omar on HBO's The Wire, was found dead in his Brooklyn flat in September 2021. The 4 men are accused of narcotics conspiracy. Police say they sold drugs laced with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid, blamed for thousands of drug deaths. Now, our deaths are on the rise, family. I'm just posing the question to you. Are they lacing the drugs that the federal government now wants to give clean crack pipes and clean needles $30 million to line the pockets of the immigrant and white-owned drug programs? I mean, they're not coming through trying to control the kind of drugs they take. As far as I'm concerned, you're helping to kill them. You're not inspecting the caliber of these drugs, how pure they are. You're literally giving them the instruments to take their own lives, to die from these products that have been laced. And oh, by the way, in the next article I'm going to read, I think that the drug kit that I showed in the last video on this issue, where the brother was exposing, here you go, the crack pipes from the Catholic Church, that's independent, from what I understand, of the Biden administration's $30 million crack pipe program. But I do believe these kits will be constructed in the same way. And I believe that was the intent all along. To my understanding, the Biden administration is rolling out their crack pipes and drug needles in May. But what I'm trying to tell you, family, if this is true, if the narcotics conspiracy is true for this famous actor, could it also be true for the thousands of drug deaths that are currently on the rise, superseding that of white folks in terms of drug overdoses? Stick a pin in it. Moving on. A medical examiner has ruled that the 54-year-old's death was an accident, meaning he was unaware that the drugs were laced. I don't know how they deduced that. But anyway, the suspects include Hector Robles, Luis Cruz. Well, let me back up. Meaning the death was an accident, meaning he did not intentionally overdose in order to take his own life. He wasn't on a suicide mission. So that's the context in which his death was an accident. He took drugs for leisure, not knowing, I presume, that they were laced with fentanyl. And I'm arguing, if that can be true for him, couldn't it be true for these thousands of drug deaths that are on the rise in the Black communities? The suspects include Hector Robles, Luis Cruz, and Carlos Mackey, who were all arrested on Tuesday and are expected to make their first court appearances on Wednesday. Irvin Cartagena was arrested on Tuesday in Puerto Rico and is expected to go before a judge on Thursday. This is a public health crisis and it has to stop, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said in a statement announcing the arrest. Deadly opioids like fentanyl and heroin don't care about who you are or what you've accomplished. They just feed addiction and lead to tragedy. Investigators have obtained surveillance footage of the men allegedly selling drugs to Williams on the street the day before he was found. They allegedly continued to sell the drugs at residences in Manhattan and Brooklyn even after they learned that their drugs had killed Williams, officials say. According to the Daily Beast, NYPD detectives treated his death as a homicide and used surveillance cameras throughout the city to trace car license plates to the suspects. Quote, treat this case as if Michael K. Williams was hit by a bullet, one police official instructed his officers. He later told the website, make believe he got shot. And so, like I said, family, this begs the question, if the other thousands of deaths that are on the rise in the Black communities are homicides, if they can do this to Michael K. Williams and then proceed to continue selling their drugs that they know is laced with fentanyl, which is deadly, wouldn't that mean the majority of us who may have died from drug overdoses could have gotten a hold of these drugs that were laced by the nefarious types such as these immigrants? Back to the NPR article. Overdose rates have been growing fastest among Black communities, says Joseph Freedmen, an addiction researcher at UCLA. For the first time, we see them overtaking the overdose rate among white individuals. Like I said, I hope you're thinking caps are on and that you're putting two and two together. They're coming through our communities with these bad drugs, lacing them, and the overdoses are on the rise. These sound like homicides to me. And now you've got the Biden administration administering drug paraphernalia while the overdoses are on the rise. And the drugs are laced. It's a devastating milestone documented in a peer-reviewed study published Wednesday in the journal JAMA Psychiatry. The research is based on drug deaths from 1999 through 2020, the most recent comprehensive overdose data available. The biggest factor leading to overdose deaths among Black people is a more toxic, illicit drug supply. Preliminary data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention suggests the situation has grown even worse over the past year as fatal overdoses topped 100,000 for the first time in 2021. Freedmen says the biggest factor leading to dramatically higher overdose deaths among Black people with substance use disorder is pretty simple. The illicit drug supply, the street drug supply, is becoming more and more toxic, he says. But, me speaking, the Biden administration chooses a time such as now to fund $30 million to issue crack pipes and heroin needles. And that is racial equity in the eyes of the Biden administration. That's because of fentanyl. Back to the text. The potent synthetic opioid, which Mexican drug cartels now mix into many of the street drugs sold in the U.S. You mean the very same Mexican drug cartels that Biden chooses to give $1 bazillion to Ukraine to protect their borders, but leave our borders wide open for these very drug cartels to move about in our communities, killing us with fentanyl-laced drugs sold in the streets. And he's supplying the Mexican cartel with crack pipes to our people's peril. Not $30 million to rehab them. $30 million to give them the supplies that are ultimately going to kill them when they get a hold of the Mexican cartel, whom he leaves the borders open to come into this country and sell this bullshiggity in our communities to kill us. Because these drug users are not useful. So he is funding with our tax dollars the ability for these Mexican drug cartels to come into our communities with laced drugs to kill us, freedmen. This is not the plight of the Black immigrants who are coming into this country, who are earmarked to actually outnumber us. Their whole families are intact. They're making the six-figure incomes. They've got 1,000 times more wealth than freedmen. This is not their plight. This is the plight of the freed men and women who have been legislated to the bottom of this Titanic as the anchor of this country's capitalism. Welcome to the live. Back to the text. People who are lower down on the social hierarchy tend to be exposed to fentanyl and other highly potent synthetic opioids at disproportionate rates, says Dr. Helena Hansen, a co-author of the report. As a consequence, you find Black Americans are exposed to fentanyl more often than white Americans, she says, because, me speaking, white high school dropouts are more gainfully employed than even college degree freedmen. And Biden administration's answer is to give them clean crack pipes to kill themselves. Black Americans with addiction more vulnerable to fentanyl. Hansen, who is Black, is also a researcher at UCLA. She says African Americans with substance use disorder also frequently lack access to healthcare and drug treatment. They're arrested and incarcerated at a far higher rate. Once again, Biden administration's answer is $30 million on more crack pipes for our communities and clean needles. But please smoke it, because you'll live a little bit longer if you smoke it than if you shoot up with dirty needles. We're encouraging you to use your drugs in the pipe. And that's racial equity. This means they tend to have fewer chances to get healthy and avoid relapses that expose drug users to fentanyl. We have in this country two tiers. A criminalized tier, which still over-police and over-arrest and over-incarcerates Black and brown Americans, Hansen says. We're 70% of the prison population. Stop it with this brown nonsense. The brown that gets to identify as white and is doing far better than Freedmen Black in this country by and large. The very brown that's in the communities as a part of the Mexican cartels that are lacing the drugs that are in our communities to kill us off, because we're no use as slaves in the not so new, in the private prison industrial complex. You can't get much out of a slave who's addicted to drugs. So let's give them clean crack pipes to smoke up the fentanyl-laced drugs, the synthetics, so they'll die. Because like Biden said during his plea on the Senate hearing floor for more prison, we create the problem, and he don't give a damn that they've created the problem. We must get rid of them. We must lock them up. And so now his big idea is, since we can't lock all of them up because these are of no use, let's just euthanize them. Let's just extinct them. Let's just disappear them. And let's invest $30 million in drug paraphernalia because we care about racial equity. And oh, by the way, those that don't kill themselves this way, let's give $350 billion more to the Glacier Donkey race soldiers to go in the communities and kill them simply for being Black. And our electorate keeps delivering these Mickey Fickies the White House. Back to the text. And then we have a medicalized tier that's more available in white communities. Another 1.2 million drug deaths forecast across all demographics. Can we afford to lose anymore? Our numbers are going down. I keep telling you guys, the Biden administration that 87% of our electorate voted for is killing us on every front while using our tax dollars to protect the Nazis of Ukraine against Russia, and now encouraging Africa to work on the front lines of the Ukrainians bullshit. They want black bodies on those front lines to take that L from Russia. And I told y'all, this administration is killing us. Our numbers are dwindling as he sits up here at the State of Union address, not mentions black out of his mouth not one time, and talks about funding the police with Kagame and Pelosi standing behind him applauding. Our numbers are dying as he ushers in Afghanistani refugees and now Ukrainian refugees. It is the whitening of the browning of America with 3 Ks. While we're being told no to the reparations. And our people, freedmen, keep showing up to deliver them to our own peril. I've got friends who are literally applauding the State of the Union address. There was no George Floyd Justice and Policing Act even mentioned. No reparations even mentioned. But $350 billion to fund the police. And both sides of the aisle stood for that. And you got ignoramus ass freedmen who are applauding his State of the Union. Back to the text. This research follows a study published last month in the medical journal The Lancet that forecasts more than 1.2 million additional drug overdose deaths in the U.S. in the coming decade. On reviewing the demographic study conducted at UCLA, Dr. Stephen Taylor with the American Society of Addiction Medicine says the data suggests the Black community may bear the brunt of the next phase of the opioid epidemic. Oh, they coming to clean us all the way out. They've neutralized us economically. They're giving these immigrants and refugees housing and jobs over freedmen. When we are over 50% of the homeless families in this country, it's gotten far worse since the pandemic that all of a sudden COVID is no longer a threat. I don't hear anywhere in the news where us who have chosen not to fall for this whack-ass vaccine, I don't see any more mandates. They've dropped the mask mandates. Poof! Poof! Like magic. But see, I'm the conspiracy theorist. I find that most conspiracy theorists are accurately telling the truth. This was a pandemic. And now Pfizer's coming out with heart-related issues in the youth who take these vaccines. And I already told y'all it killed my mother. I stand by that. She lived 37 years with heart disease. Took those 2 jabs and the booster, she's gone. She succumbed to 3 heart attacks. 2 of them in the hospital. And now, poof, no more COVID. Everybody's walking around without their mask, footloose and fancy free, because it was a pandemic all along to kill us, to euthanize us, to euthanize the people they no longer had a need for. Because they're giving away our jobs and housing to the immigrants and the refugees and to line their own pockets. Back to the text. Quote, as a member of the Black community and as an addiction treatment specialist, I'm terrified of that prospect, but that's exactly what we could be facing, Taylor says. A larger percentage of this next million deaths will be Black and other people of color. Researchers say the way to prevent many of those deaths in the Black community is well documented in scientific and medical literature. Provide better health care and more access to addiction treatment. Did you hear anywhere in there where they said, Biden administration give $30 million to line the pockets of white and immigrant drug programs in the name of the crack epidemic, which is really the opioid epidemic that is sponsored by the Mexican cartels who get free access to our communities because you won't protect our fucking borders. Have you heard anywhere in here that was what they prescribed? Provide better health care and more access to addiction treatment. All of this needs to be done with a real sense of urgency, Taylor says. Let me see what y'all have to say about it. I'm just done. Hi, Kia J. Welcome to the live. Clarence Davis, Biden smoking kits. Oh, Biden administration, nice play on words. Oh, yes, because all of this F you to the Freedmen community started with Barack Obama. Should be no Biden. Yeah. His no to reparations has given these glacier donkeys free access to give us the middle finger until they extinct us to as few in numbers as the Indians. Seems like smoking, it kills them faster. Probably so, family. Probably so. So with that being said, let me share with you what Dr. Claude Anderson supports in my Freedmen voter strategy that I hope you guys understand the necessity to show up in droves to give the Biden administration our Freedmen asses to kiss, akin to what they've done to us and giving us their asses to kiss. I want them to know it was us. And the problem with staying home is you're leaving the decision of this election in the hands of white folks and immigrants who clearly hate us. You're allowing them to choose. And if they choose, they're going to choose a president who gives more a damn about giving $350 billion to the police, $350 million to AAPI, the Asians, land and casinos tax-free to the Catawba Indians, more jobs and housing to the Afghanistan and Ukrainian white refugees, more to the Latino communities. These are the people who are going to decide the outcome of the midterms if we don't show up in Obama-style numbers and shut this down. We're choosing between the guillotine, which is now the Democrats, and the gas chamber, which is now the repugnant clans. Repugnant clans. 3 Ks. And we've got to slow this down. We have got to close these borders. Let me let you hear from Dr. Claude Anderson, who's in support of my closed border strategy. before I pray us out.
The Republican Party withdraw from the Democratic Party. We're going to start a national black party in this country, because right now I can show you how to win any election you want. And all you got to do is don't run into candidates. You just simply say, we will vote for any candidate, regardless of what's color or.
Hold on, y'all. Not sure what happened. Hold on. Let me refresh it. It just stopped. Hold on, family. Let me find another way to get this to you guys. Hold on. Stand by. Technical difficulty. Let me go here and pull it up. None of us are free until all of us are free, family. We really are not. This is not okay with me. Well, darn it. I don't know what happened. I'm going to have to get the link another way, family. But basically, he was in support of my closed border strategy. We need to show up in Barack Obama style numbers, family, and give the Biden administration our Freedmen asses to kiss, akin to how they've given us their asses to kiss. This ain't a party thing. It's a Freedmen flourishing thing that I'm setting us up for. You got to vote for only closed border candidates. Party be damned. You have to get the backbone and the kahungas of our ancestors who knew when to pivot from the repugnant clans to the Dixiecrats for civil rights that are now benefiting everyone but freedmen. Closed border candidates only. Vet them very closely. See how they voted in the past in your area. You don't want the pretenders. Another code word is America first. People who are American first are like Donald Trump's people who believe in America first. They're not for these open borders. And you must vote closed border candidates, including Marcel Dixon, to unseat Coon Clyburn in District 6, South Carolina, and Tamara Johnson Shealy in the state of Georgia. Tamara Johnson Shealy's election is real probable because the Republican clans have split the ticket 10 ways, and I do believe right now it's just her and Warnock on that ticket. Their vote is May 24th. Marcel Dixon has a real shot. He's 57% blacks in his district. And his elections are June 14th. Please support, financially support recurring payments. MarcelForCongress.com and Tamara for Georgia. Tamara, wait, let me get them right. Hold on. I'm going to put it in the chat. MarcelForCongress.com. I think it's Tamara for Georgia. .com. I put it in the chat. You can set up recurring payments to both of these candidates. They can really use your financial support. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please help me make this message go viral. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the puckery with the banks as I was researching the Freedmen Bank Forum, I found out about a merger of two black banks, one out of DC, one here in California, Southern California. And I found out that, hold on, we're down from 44 black banks to 21 with assets totaling $4.85 billion. Latinos have 33 banks and $109 billion in assets. Asians have 72 banks and $129 billion in assets. And the white national banks have $1.97 trillion. So tune in tomorrow. I can't tell you what time I'm going. You'll get the notifications prayerfully. But it's all contingent on my workload and my advocacy. Okay, it's a lot. So I get on here when I can to keep pushing and making the case for reparations, weaponizing our vote, and socializing our suffering. And with that being said, family, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever Freedmen and its allies are, God truly is, because family, you are the face of God. Yes, you are. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. If no one's told you today, family, know this, that I love you black. And I love you so strong, family. Yes, I do. Until tomorrow, family, when we meet again for more rockery, I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening. I'm sending you a ton of peace, love, and reparations.